Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1108.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. On today's show, we're going to talk about why are the wealthiest people already investing in digital assets? I find it really interesting that the amount of private wealth offices, institutions, family offices, sovereign wealth funds are already telling us that they're investing in digital assets. Recently, a new survey was done by KPMG, the accounting firm, and Aspen Digital, and they found that 92% of those polled, that is, high net worth individuals and family offices, were either already investing in digital assets or plan to be investing in digital assets in the next year. Now, I've talked a lot about digital assets, cryptocurrencies, and even wrote a book about it. But if you're not familiar with all that's going on in that space, I think it's the most exciting investment opportunity that we will ever see in our lifetimes. And that's not a statement I can take lightly. I did live through the technology boom years, and those were something to behold. It was extremely exciting to see the internet come into being and to go from having to use paper and then printers and then fax machines to actually being able to use email and the internet and websites and sell things online. That's all really come into the mainstream in the last 25 or so years. And a lot of that technology had its origins for commercial use back in the 1990s, in those early years. Until then, it was mostly government agencies and universities that had access to that technology. But soon it became mainstream, and we use it so much every day, we wonder how we could have ever gotten along without it. Our productivity is so much higher, it saves so much time and expense. We don't have to print items anymore, we can do digital PDFs, we don't have to pay postage, we can have full online businesses like I do. It's amazing to me, the evolution of the internet and everything that's moved online. And now I believe we're in the next iteration of that, which is to move everything digitally. You see, the one thing that they forgot when they were working on the internet, and Mark Andreessen said this himself, that when he created his web browser, the one thing he forgot was to put a payment system into it. You see, we still move money the old-fashioned way. We move it by wire, by ACH transfer. We're moving it slowly, and we have intermediaries that we're using. And that is something that we're going to be updating in the very near future. Payments can now move at the speed of the internet, and that's something that Ripple has talked about, creating the internet of value, being able to move things of value on the internet from one place to another, from one value to another, from one type of asset to another, almost instantaneously. So it's no surprise to me that the wealthy are seeing this trend. After all, they probably made a lot of wealth in the technology era. And anyone who did recognizes the similarities between right now what we're going through and what we went through back then. The difference is, I don't believe we're anywhere near a bubble. I think we are so early on that we haven't really even begun to see the wealth creation that we are going to see. Yes, Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, and it certainly created massive wealth and grew as the fastest asset ever in history, outperforming all the successful stocks like Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, everything. It grew 200% annually, and that's the fastest growing asset ever in history. And while Bitcoin was the first and proved that we could have value on the internet, I believe we're now moving into more important uses of cryptocurrencies where we have actual utility. They do things more than just store value. They're going to actually solve problems, whether that's new forms of cross-border payments that happen quickly and without high fees, or whether that's transactions that are kept on a blockchain with smart contracts that make certain financial things happen automatically. Perhaps someday a whole real estate transaction, for example, could happen on a blockchain with smart contracts, or even ways to generate passive income that we've never seen before. The ways that we can use digital assets are as many ways as we can probably imagine, but it's important that they have utility. It's not enough just to be speculation. And I think when we get regulation, that distinction is going to be very, very important. Does it actually do something? Does it actually have a technology that improves upon something? Or is it something that just was purchased thinking that the price would go up? Today, less than 5% of the world's population are invested in cryptocurrencies, so we're still very early. But we also know we're early because we don't even have official regulations yet in the United States. Now, many other countries have regulations for digital assets, but the United States does not yet. But they have been proposed, and we have taken a look at what Congress has said they would like to see. And one of the key ingredients is to have energy efficiency, to be green or to not pollute the environment and to not take up a whole lot of energy usage. And that's also something that is a strong point for XRP. Not only the fact that it is a green energy, but also it's so scalable, handling 1,500 transactions per second at a cost of 0.0004 cents and a speed of 3 seconds or less. And that makes XRP and the XRP ledger extremely well suited for handling digital assets, for handling different currencies and different items of value, exchanging from one asset into another asset. So one thing's for sure, not all digital assets are created equal, and there's thousands of them. But Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, has told us that not every cryptocurrency is going to survive. I believe what he was telling us is the ones that were created just for speculative purposes, to come out at one price, hoping that it would go higher, will probably go away with regulation. But the ones that can have smart contracts, the ones that have real utility and use cases, those are the ones that we expect to have additional value in the future. And I think that's something that family offices and sovereign wealth funds and institutions already know. And that big wave of money from large institutions, from financial advisors, and from the investing public has yet to come into this space. But once we get regulation, they will start investing. And already, Fidelity Investments and Charles Schwab have created digital assets available to high net worth investors. And that was the result of high demand. People asking for the opportunity to invest in these kinds of assets. So what is it that's holding back some people from being able to invest in these exciting digital assets? Well, the biggest thing, I think, is volatility. So let's talk for a moment about how to minimize the volatility with investing in digital assets. Of course, we want to take a long-term view and know that this is something that is being built out not for a speculative reason, but for real usage, for solving problems. Just like in the days of the technology boom, yes, we had some internet companies that got frothy and ahead of themselves, but we also had companies that really solved problems, that built their company wisely, and were conservative in their original view with expansion later. Companies like Amazon that came out originally to offer books to people. And once they were a bookseller, then they could gradually grow into music and into other categories, and now today have basically everything you can think of, and even owning other subsidiaries like Whole Foods groceries. So we have to take a long-term view and realize it's going to take time to build out the Internet of Value. We need to realize that we're early in a trend that's going mainstream. And until we see that day when we're using cryptocurrencies on a regular basis to pay for things, we're not anywhere near the potential that this market can have. Another way to handle the volatility is to realize that you only want to invest 3% to 5% of your total portfolio in these kinds of assets. Yes, they do have a lot of risk, and yes, they can move up and down very violently. So only 3 to 5% as an investment is the smart way to manage your risk. Now, while the volatility can be crazy on the upside and the downside, we do see that about every 3 years, digital assets go through an important upward cycle. And probably as they get more mainstream, that will level out over time. But from going back into 2014, 2017, 2020, probably 2023 will be another good year for digital assets. So this is the time that you want to prepare. This is the time that you have the opportunity to still buy at very, very low prices. In fact, some of these cryptocurrencies are selling for literally pennies or even below a penny. One of Elon Musk's favorite cryptocurrencies is Dogecoin, and it's selling for about 7 cents. There's some speculation that he may attach it to Twitter and to allowing people to tip people on Twitter or to pay for advertising using Dogecoin. Who knows what he has planned for it, but already, just in anticipation of him buying Twitter, Dogecoin has already started to go up and is up about 15% in the last couple days. Now, if you're new to cryptocurrency and digital assets, you may not realize that there's a steep learning curve. There's all kinds of terminology, there's ways that you have to connect and prove your identity to crypto exchanges, ways to connect your bank and get your finances all set up so that you can purchase cryptocurrencies, and then ways to store them off the exchange so they are held with maximum security and safety. If you get everything else right and you don't secure your assets safely, you could lose them very easily, and that's something we definitely don't like to see. So it's really important that you learn all aspects, not only which cryptocurrencies to invest in and how to buy them and where to buy them, but also how to store them securely and safely. If that's something you'd like to know more about, there's a link in the show notes that will allow you to request a time to talk with me personally. And yes, it really is me that you talk to. A lot of people think it's not going to be me, but it is. Or if you'd like to know more about digital assets, their future potential, and my favorite cryptocurrencies, you can pick up a copy of my book, 3 Steps to Quantum Wealth, The Wealth Heiress's Guide to Financial Freedom by Investing in Cryptocurrencies. It's available on Amazon, and there's also a link to that in the show notes. So, the wealthy are investing in these digital assets because they see the potential. They know that we're early. They saw what Bitcoin did, and they believe that there may be other assets out there that might be the next Bitcoin, which I tend to agree with in terms of the way that it compounded and how much wealth it created. I believe we will not only see this massive wealth creation that Bitcoin created, but for cryptocurrencies and digital assets that have real utility, the sky's the limit for them, in my opinion. Now, I can't make any guarantees, but from everything I've looked at, I can't help but conclude that this is the most opportunistic investing time that we've ever seen. And I believe the next few years are going to be very exciting as we go from these early pre-regulation stages to getting regulation, getting institutions involved and more invested, getting the everyday investor to come into cryptocurrency and start using it on a regular basis, and to see the investing community and the wave of money coming into these spectacular technologies that have unique utility. And as people recognize that there is massive value, the whole world is eventually going to be digitized and tokenized, and everything of value will be able to be transferred digitally. That's really what they're talking about with the Internet of Value. This is the time that you can still invest with very little money and have maximum potential for building wealth. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.